Okay, hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'll be sharing my screen shortly. But before that, can we put in the chat where we are joining from? Um, I'll be happy to learn more about you. So you can just like put in the chat where you are joining in from, which city.
So we have several colleagues who have already put in the chat. It's very
Oh,
diverse.
great.
So yeah, we have people from Haiti, from Nigeria, Tanzania,
Okay,
Pakistan, Namibia, Sudan, Afghanistan, Ecuador, Malawi, Ghana. That's wonderful.
amazing. That's exciting. Yeah, so first of all, I would like to thank the Kectil board members, my colleagues I have here, Christelle and Edward. I think Alexandra might join later. Yeah,
Yes.
thanks for putting this together. I think this is an amazing initiative that we hope will inspire most of you to be able to take your community projects to the next level. So I'll be sharing my screen. Okay, so we have about 2 hours for this session. However, I'll try as much as I can to go through this in an hour. I'll try my best, so that we get to have more time for Q&A and have like an open discussion. So the this webinar, we are going to basically talk about how to build partnerships. I know that I don't really know why some of you got motivated to start your community projects, but I believe that you started it with a conviction of making an impact. And when we talk about making an impact, you're not just looking at making an impact within a short term, but hopefully for you to build a lasting impact that people can remember you for, and people can, sort of like also take them up. So we also be, talking a little bit about resources, transparency, and communication. So let me just dive in. So this is just a little bit about myself. I am Matthias Strauss Yabe. I currently am a social entrepreneur and an innovator. I founded an organization called AcoFresh back in 2021, maybe in 2020, but we officially started work on grounds in 2021. Essentially, a social enterprise focused on reducing post-harvest losses and empowering farmers. I bring about 7 years, more than 7 years of experience in social entrepreneurship, innovation, sustainable agriculture. I've had a chance to engage with quite a number of international organizations like the UNIDO, UNICEF, UNDP, ILO. I'm passionate about empowering young leaders and fostering innovation. So I currently lead the Hot Prize program in Ghana as a country manager. And I also support the Kectil program as a board member. I recently joined the European Union Youth Sounding Board as well. So that is just a little bit about me and my background. So before that, I would like us to watch this short video. Please let me know if the video is not able to play. You can just give me a... Is it playing?
Yes, but we do
You can
not
just
have
give a thumbs up.
sound. We do not
Oh, it
have
doesn't have
sound.
sound. Yeah, it's just an audio. Can you hear the sound now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, oh, sorry. Let me restart it. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed my video. Yeah, my presentation is not a lecture. So expect to see more pictures and videos in the coming slides. But just wanted to give you a little bit of context around my work, and just to give you like a practical example of how a small community project have been able to grow into something really large. So what you just saw is the community, should I say a community project I started back then, which is no longer a community project. There's now like an organization that is collaborating with over 30 different global partners, impacting over 10,000 lives, 400 tons of food waste emissions avoided, 40% of increase income for farmers, having strong partnerships with the European Union consortium projects, working with the UNDP and Youth for Climate, among others, and winning some global awards so far. So I decided to share this just to give you an example of how large you can think about your community projects. And I just want to show you this picture. So this particular slide was created in 2021. So that was the very first pitch I ever did for my project, which is AquaFresh. And I think you've already had a chance to see the innovation, and you've really, I'm sure you're fascinated. Oh wow, this is a cool tech. It's helping farmers preserve their food whatsoever. Um, this particular slide, so because we are talking about partnerships, the topic here today is partnerships and how can you leverage, because honestly, in order for you to really be successful with the various community project ideas that you have, it could be that some of you are already running your community projects. That is fine, but in order for you to be very successful, you can never take away partnerships. So I think the community projects team did very well for choosing this topic. So looking at this slide, I highlighted it 2021 because this was the slide I presented during my first ever pitch that I did for funding from potential partners. And you can see just five of these logos over here. And obviously, the first logo is the organization we were pitching to. So obviously, we're tagging them as a partner. And Warfed here was a local community project that was also working in the community that I wanted to start my community project. And then Farmerline was also a large organization back then that we wanted to collaborate with to be able to reach more farmers. And obviously the Department of Agriculture, we worked with their extension officers to help us gather farmers' data. And this was a tomato farmer cooperative group that was existing in the community that wanted to start our project in. Now, let me show you what we have in 2026. So you can see how incredible it is. Moving from just few local partners in 2021 to more than 20 global partners. And these are like really huge organizations that are very well respected globally. And you'll be wondering how was this possible? By the end of this presentation, you should be able to really grasp how myself and my team were able to, get organizations like the European Union to support our work, to get organizations like the International Trade Center, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Netherlands, the UNICEF, the UNDP, get Kofi Annan Foundation or Global Solutions Initiative. So these were some of the awards we were able to get for the work that we do. So we received the United Nations Industrial Development Organization Food Tech Award, Global Food Tech Award in Korea. We also received a few other awards. And just last week, we received the inaugural OPEC Fund Youth Entrepreneurship Award, which is a $100,000 award recognizing young people building solutions. So I'm just sharing these with you just to inspire you to take your community project seriously, and that your community project can really take you really far, and it can really get a lot of partners on board to help you scale. So now at the end of this presentation, or by the end of probably our 1 hour interaction, you should be able to know how to map your partners by identifying what kind of partners are relevant to the kind of project that you want to do, and what kind of resources do they have to support you. Because you don't just reach out to the European Union and say, hey, European Union, I have a community project, come and support me or bring me money. No, it doesn't work like that. You also need to design for transparency. At the end of the day, I also sort of like teach you how to be able to design your project for transparency. So it means building simple reporting and decision-making habits that can really earn you trust. Because trust is very, very important in the kind of work that we do. And let me move forward. And then finally, oh, I can't see my screen myself. A minute.
If you want to unshare and then reshare, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I think that helps. Yeah, so and then the last thing we will talk about is communicating with intent. So knowing how to really communicate your project is also very important. Can you see my screen?
No.
Not, not
Okay,
yet.
a minute. Let me just get this here. Okay, I think I get why it went off now. It's because I put it in full screen. Okay. So the last point is communicating with intent. It is very important for you to know how to communicate with intent. So now one thing you need to understand is the fact that no community project survives alone. Your community project can never survive alone. They should tell you that you need external people to support you in the work that you do. You even need a team of volunteers. You need people. You can never do away. So even when we talk about partnerships, it's not just about having people, external organizations trying to fund you, or external organizations trying to provide resources or expertise. The kind of team members that you put together is also a form of partnerships. So that is why I captioned this slide, no community project survives alone. So if you have an idea, or you have that kind of conviction that your project will survive alone without partnerships or without external support, then you can do something, something quite small on a smaller scale, but it cannot really reach its full potential. So now, what do I mean by it doesn't survive alone? Because you need to be able to extend reach beyond what one organization can fund or staff. When you have that kind of support, you're able to combine complementary strength, which is technical, financial, and local trust. And you're also able to distribute risk when conditions on the ground even shift quickly. And finally, you're able to build legitimacy because communities trust coalitions with local roots. So let me give you an example. So now, you see, you may be doing this community project because it could be that because you're passionate about a cause, or because you see that, okay, Kectil is part of, an opportunity for you to get recognized by Kectil, or maybe it's part of an opportunity for you to, improve your CV. I don't know why you're doing it, but then once you really take your community project seriously and you want to take it to the next level, you are able to, with partnerships, it can help you reach a lot of, heights that an organization, with a little or few volunteers can reach. And with partnerships, you can now get technical, financial, and local trust. Because when you are working with, let's say, a local farmer, so for my case, we worked with the district's Ministry of Food and Agriculture, because they have agricultural officers who work directly with the local farmers. So they were one of our partners. We couldn't take them out of the work that we do. And you know what that does is that it builds local trust. So you need to be able to so it's not just combining, it's not just giving financial, because they are not giving money. The government mostly do not give money. But we realized that we needed that kind of local trust. So we needed to get the extension officers on board as a partner. And what they can also do is that they also give some complementary strength, which includes technical strength, which means that these extension officers work with the farmers on grounds. They understand the technicalities of food waste, post-harvest losses. So they can also sort of like complement the skills that we did not have on our team. That is the power of, partnership. And you're also able to distribute risks when conditions on the ground shift quickly. So for instance, if you have a partner who is bringing on board, let's say, capacity building, and there's another partner that is also supporting with finance, and there's also another partner that is, providing a venue for your event. You see, when things decide to shift quickly, you can now say, okay, if the event space is not available, why can't we take a little money from the partner that is bringing money to sort of like rent out a space? So, it helps you distribute that risk when conditions shift on grounds quickly. That is just an example. And finally, it builds legitimacy, because the communities trust coalitions with local roots. So sometimes it's very important to be able to work directly with local organizations. You cannot enter a community to say, hey, I want to do a community project, and then you neglect the local community leaders. You should never avoid that. Because you don't start a community project without involving the community leaders and the community themselves. Because when the community see that you are involving local groups, it makes it easier for them to build that kind of trust. So I've spent a lot of time on this because it's a very important slide. Now, where partnerships actually break down. Where do partnerships actually break down? So now we understand that we really need partners in the work that we are doing. I know that some of you are students, some of you are already working, you may have other commitments. Community project is not a full-time work, we understand. But then we really want you to be able to apply the concepts, from our year-long program, to sort of like benefit your community in a more physical way. So you may see this as, okay, this is a small project I want to do on the side. That is fine. But then even with that, in order for you to succeed, and in order for things to be a bit more seamless for you in terms of implementing your community project, you need partnerships. And now, what do you need to do in order to avoid these partnerships not to break down? So now the first thing we need to check is resource ambiguity. Now, what do I mean by resource ambiguity? You see, this is when nobody really writes down what they are bringing on board. Of course, there's that kind of commitment that, hey, I'm interested, I'll support you. But then nobody wrote down who is contributing what in order for the project to be successful. And this is something most of us find ourselves doing. Even like for me, when I was starting my organization, and I've worked on other projects in the past where I did not really state clearly what my partners need to bring on board and what we were also bringing on board. So nobody wrote down who is bringing cash, which is very important. That was why I wrote it first. Nobody mentioned staffing or staff time or nobody is mentioning volunteers. Who is bringing on board volunteers, or who is recruiting volunteers? Who is bringing on board equipment? Who is bringing on board access? So when we talk about access, access is who is able to lobby for you to get into certain places, into certain rooms that you may ordinarily not find yourself in. So you see, these gaps sort of like will surface when you are in the middle of your project. You may not see it. You think, oh, I have a great partner. We have a great partner on board. Nice. You just put their logo over there. That logo does not really make sense if at the end of the day, the resource is ambiguous. So let them clearly state what they want to do. Not all partners will give you money. When a partner tells you they don't want to give you money, or they may not be able to support with money, never be disappointed. But because sometimes a partner's recommendation alone, or a partner's presence, or a brand's presence can help you unlock other, opportunities. You may get, let's say, the Ministry of Education to give you a short recommendation letter or an endorsement letter. They may not give you cash directly, but that recommendation letter can really unlock some form of corporate donations or corporate sponsorship. So you need to clearly define all these things. Now, the second point is opaque decision making. Now, this is one key thing that contributes to partnerships breaking down. Now, budgets, timelines, or setbacks are shared late or selectively, and trust erodes before even anyone raises it. Now, there's no proper decision making. Of course, I understand you are the leader, but one thing I want to urge everyone to do is you need to put together a team, even if it is a team of 3. Try as much as possible to have a team. It's not just, it is sort of like helping you test that kind of leadership in you implementing your project. So you have a team, you discuss your budget, you discuss your timelines, and who makes what decision. All these things have to be decided. But if you put together your team and there's no clear plan of like who decides what, or no, who plays what role, that is what really affects decision making as well. Because it gets to a point we don't know who is handling our budgets and timelines, or who is holding us accountable to our timelines, who is the project officer on grounds, or who is a community liaison, or who is a partnership expert. If you do not clearly define these roles, it becomes difficult. So that is what I mean by opaque decision making. Because now setbacks are shared late, because now no one knows who is responsible for what. So it begins to raise questions, and there's that kind of trust as well, trust issues, because no one knows who prepared the budget and all that. And then finally, communication drifts. Now, you see, updates happen only when something goes wrong. So partners sort of like disengage or hear bad news too late in order for them to help. So communication drift. You should be constantly updating your partners. That is like one thing that has really helped me in my journey. Now, I got this advice in 2022. I would like to share the same advice with all of you, because that advice really helped me. So one of our I think that was the second award we got for my initiative. It was a big stage, the Global Solutions Summit in Germany. I won the inaugural Young Global Changers Award. And it was a global call with several young people from over 50 countries around the world. And I made it to the event in person in Germany. And during my arrival, the program manager for that event, Rich, he was sort of like welcoming us. So anyone who arrives on time gets to have like a coffee or a drink with him. So I was having a drink with him, and he told me that, Charles, do you know that we had good people, quite a number of people showing interest in your project? Then I'm like, oh, that's amazing. But he told me that most young people that run through the program, do not stay in touch. That is their problem, is that they do not stay in touch. So they feel, okay, I did not win. You didn't give me the award, so why should I stay in touch? Or I didn't get the first prize, or I didn't get what I wanted, so there's no need to stay in touch. No, that is a wrong thing. You need to be able to communicate. So you see, they become your partner. For me, I saw them as my partner. Of course, I ended up winning the award, but the advice he told me was that, Charles, stay in touch, because when you stay in touch, we are constantly having you in mind. In case any opportunity pops up, then they can easily remember Charles because they are working with so many young people in their network. So if you constantly give them information or about your projects, you get to sort of like take them on that journey. They also feel very proud that, oh wow, this person or this community project is constantly giving us updates. They feel proud and they feel part of the journey. I'm not saying you should spam them. Don't spam your partners, please. Don't spam them with a lot of messages and pictures every day. No, they'll get tired and bored of you. No. But then what I mean is sending them personalized updates. Okay, what milestone have you been able to reach? You can just draft, a 250 to 500 word paragraph with pictures or videos. Just share it with them. If the person has access to WhatsApp, you can forward it to your partner or whichever donor you have. So that advice really stood with me because he said, Charles, when people reach out and when people share updates around what they do, or when they stay in touch, that was the statement he made. Staying in touch, we are constantly able to have them in mind and share relevant opportunities with them. Now, do you know what happened after the event? I was sharing updates with it. So any award that we get, any milestone that we reach, I just write a personalized email and share it with them. I kept on doing that. On LinkedIn, when I reach certain milestones, I tag them, just mention them in there, tag them. Even if they did not support that milestone, you can just mention, like tag them in a comment or find a way for them to see. You see, that is you staying in touch. That is them knowing what you are doing. And you'll be surprised to see that when I did that, and they were able to follow my journey because they were part of my journey at the very early stage. In 2022, when we won the award, we had not really reached a lot of milestones. So you'll be surprised to know that when I did that by staying in touch and communicating with them constantly around our updates and impact, I was invited to attend the summit 2 times in a row, fully funded. The second time I was invited for the event, I went as a jury member to help them, select the winners, to help them select their semi-finalists. And then again, they invited me for the next edition, which was my third time attending the event in Germany, fully funded. I was there as a jury member to actually select the winners. And beyond that, they gave me access to, to speak with Bill Gates at the events. So that is the power of staying in touch, my friends. Because you see, I was not the only person in the court, or I wasn't the only person who won the award, but I was staying in touch. So it is very important for you to do that. Now, 3 pillars that hold every durable partnership is one, resources. So now, in order for you to have like a durable or a solid partnership, that partnership has to be resourced. So now, what is each partner contributing? So you need to be clear. So it's sort of like brings me back to the point I spoke earlier about resource ambiguity. So what is the partner contributing? It doesn't always have to be money, my friends. It can be equipment, it can be access, it can be knowledge. A partner may have access to the Ministry of Education. You may need a clearance from your country's Ministry of Education before organizing an engagement or something, or you may need a health facility to support you implement a community health drive or whatever your project may be. So you need to have that, the partner has to have that kind of resource. So when you are going to your partner, know exactly what you want from them. And when they agree to support, let them clearly state what they are supporting with. And then again, I just want to repeat, when the partner tells you they cannot give you money, but then they can give you other resource, please don't say no. Accept the resource, but then ensure whether or not the resource is sort of like applicable or needed or relevant to the kind of project you want to do. And please, in your journey to looking for partners or getting resources, please be ethical about it. Look for partners who are ethical. Look for partners who wouldn't end up, coming to join you to soil your reputation. And also, vice versa. Ensure that you do not do something to sort of like soil the partner's reputation. And for us, we believe in the Kectil colleagues that we have, and we know that they are already ethical. But just for me to let you know, because you'll be involving other volunteers in your projects and putting together other team members, we do not know them, but we know you and we believe in you. So just have that in mind. That brings me to the next point, which is transparency. So now how decisions, numbers, and setbacks are shared. So transparency is very important. When you get some form of donations or when you get money from a donor or a partner, the donor, some of them may not necessarily ask you to account. Some may ask you to account. But please try your best to account for it. Let them see that this was how their money was spent. That is transparency. Try to put together mechanisms. So in the next slide, I will try and then expand on these points and let you know how you can, build transparency with your partners. And then the final part is communication. How often and through whom, do you stay aligned? So it's like there has to be that kind of connection. And I think I already spoke about communication in the previous slide. So now let's delve deep. So now resources. So now you see, resources are more than money. Resources are more than money. I'll keep saying it. But of course, I always talk about money first because it is very important for us to have money in order to be able to be successful with our community projects. Now, financial, you need grants. You need matching funds. So when we talk about matching funds are those type of funding where you have a specific amount of money and you are trying to raise, let's say, $10,000 dollars. No, $10,000 may be too much. Let's assume you need $1,000 for your community projects. That is your budget. And you have $500. But then there's a donor or a funder who tells you that, okay, I have $500, but then you need to get another partner who can commit to say, I am bringing $500 in order for you to unlock my $500. I hope you get what I'm trying to say. So that is the concept of matching funds. So in your journey, you'll meet some of these mechanisms, especially when you try to fundraise for your community projects. I hope we are all good. All right. And you also need in-kind cash equivalent or working capital. So it depends on what kind of project you are doing and what resource you need, what financial resource you need directly. But please don't go in for loans for your community projects. That is an advice, a personal advice I'll give you. Never go in for a loan for your community projects. The second resource is human. So staff time, technical expertise, farmer or community trainers, volunteers, So I already touched on this earlier, that you cannot do this alone. You need humans. You definitely need humans to help you achieve this. And I'm sure if you had the chance to listen to the winners of last year's community projects or the awardees, you could tell that they had a team. They had a team of volunteers. So you really need human. So that is why I say resources are more than money. And now you need physical. So when I talk about physical, what I categorize under physical are equipment. I know vehicles and warehouse, please don't worry about that. I know it's too big, but let's think big. You don't need to buy a car. You don't need to rent a physical office space now. But then you may need a vehicle to transport yourself, obviously, from one point to another. So if there's a partner who can say, hey, I'm supporting your community project with a bus, the bus that can move volunteers from one point to another, or a bus that can move your volunteers to the project implementing site or to your community event. You may need a warehouse to keep certain things. It depends on the kind of projects you are working on. You may need equipment. If you are running a health drive, you may need some medical equipment. If you are running an agricultural initiative or an agricultural project, you may need equipment as well. And one other thing you also need, one other resource that is very important is access and trust. Local relationships, government entry points, and distribution networks. I think I already mentioned that access and trust is very, very important. There are certain rooms you can never find yourself in, but through partnerships or through certain partners, you can get access. You can get access to certain opportunities. So you see, having access to meet the former Chancellor of Germany it wasn't through me. I have no connection. I can't even reach out to the Chancellor of Germany. But through one of our partners, I had the opportunity to meet and interact with the Chancellor of Germany. You may want to work on a project, but you need to you need a certain approval from a government office or from a local or from the governor's office or whichever authority is. You need access. So you need to look at, okay, within your network, which partners can help you unlock this access? Now, another resource that is very important is knowledge. So you need technical know-how, data, market intelligence, and past evaluations. So you may think you know it all, but then trust me, you need that kind of technical know-how. So you can have a partner who can say, okay, you want to do a community health drive. Why don't we bring on board, we are giving you 3 health personnel or 3 medical doctors to help you for free. And so it means you are partnering with that health facility to do that. So they are bringing on board their knowledge. They are bringing on board their expertise or their technical know-how. You've developed a product or you want to do a STEM training or empower young girls or young people in local communities with computers or who has that technical know-how. You may have it, but then you need other people to also support you. So resources like other trainers who can train these young people on how to use the technology or the computers or even read books or solve whatever equation or even do STEM projects is very essential. And finally, reputation. You need that kind of convening power, brand credibility, and ability to unlock other partners. So reputation is very important. That is why you need to have a good branding for yourself. You need to have a good reputation so that when people look you up, when people ask other organizations about you, they don't hear negative stuff. You don't, this a master class for another day around branding and your online presence and what you write or post out there so that your reputation is very, very important. It's also a resource. So not just your reputation alone, but then the reputation an organization is bringing on board. So let's assume you get the Ministry of Education, for instance, to write an endorsement letter for your project. That is huge. It's a convening power. It builds brand credibility and it helps you unlock other partners. So that is that kind of reputation we are talking about here. So reputation can also be a resource that you can use. The government may not give you money, but then they can write a recommendation letter for you. And that can help you unlock other partners. We are almost there. We're almost hitting our 1 hour. So we will be done very soon. So now the resource map. So now this is a 3-question exercise. So now the first thing, what do we bring? So you need to list your organization. So you can take a screenshot of this if you have the chance. List your organization's contributions by type with estimated value where possible. So now what are you bringing on board as a community project? What are you bringing up? So you need to map it that, okay, I want to do a community project to help a fishing community. Maybe you've identified some key issues, or you want to help a community that is not having access to electricity, or you want to work on a project to empower girls. You need to make that list. Now, what are you bringing on board yourself? And list what contributions you can also make. And now the second one is, what does the partner also bring? So list the partners. So be specific. Okay. And then finally, you need to list the gap. So what is still missing? So the missing parts will help you unlock your fundraising targets when you are fundraising again. So you list what you bring, what your partners are bringing on board, and then finally, if there are things missing, honestly, you cannot find everything at a go, and you don't wait to get all the resources or money you need before you start your project. That is a big mistake. With the little you have, just start it. You grow, and then you keep, expanding with the little. Because you see, one thing people want to support is people will want to support something that already exists, something that already has traction. So if you always sit back to say, I need $5,000 before I start, you are going to fail. And whatever you have in mind will never come to life. But then when you say, I need $5,000, but then what can I do with $1,000? And with $1,000, what can I show my partners, or what can I show other people? So when we look at the resource line, you can see that I just listed an example. Okay, that is based on my organization's work. So resource. So you see cold storage units, we see farmer training, and we see local government access. So what does our organization have? We have just 2 units now. Farmer training, we have our own curriculum. We also have our trainers. What is a partner? What is a partner bringing on board? Sites and then power. So it means if we want to get a partner on board to scale this work, we need someone who has power, and then there's a site. Venue and mobilization. Local government access. If we need local government access, there should be that kind of permits and endorsements. So this is a resource map that you can also create. Now let's move on to the next one. Transparency. You see, trust is built on what you choose to share. Trust is built on what you choose to share. So you see, partners do not trust you because you say you are honest. Because we all say we are honest. You see, but then it's not really about they trusting you because you say, oh, we are being honest with what we are doing. But then they trust you because they can see what you see on a predictable schedule, including the parts that they aren't going well. Sometimes we always want to impress our partners and tell our partners that we are doing the best or we are superheroes. No, The partner shouldn't see you as a superhero. The partner should see you. That is why they are your partner. You don't have to over impress them. So even when something is not going well, let them know. Let me give you an example of how I was able to build trust with our very first partner. So when we won our first ever grant, I know it might sound big to some of you, but we won an amount of $25,000 to start my organization or my community project. It might sound big to you because some of you will end up getting maybe $500 to start yours. So you say, oh, Charles, or this board member training us got 25,000 to start his, and I am getting $500 or $1,000 or $2,000. Honestly, let me tell you, what really made us build this trust with the funder or the partner is the fact that I told them that, hey, I want you, because I know we want to buy equipment, our solar equipment, our refrigeration equipment, all other accessories. I will want you to pay for these products or equipment directly to the Chinese vendor that we were working with back then. And you know what that does is that it sort of like created that kind of transparency because they can see what we were seeing. So even when it got to a time, because we were shipping our things during the aftermath of COVID, right after the aftermath of COVID. So shipping was very expensive for those of you who know, because a lot of things were hoarded. Most of these things had to be sort of like distributed after COVID, after the lockdowns and all that. And our items sort of like, our shipping timeline sort of like fell in, unfortunately, during this. So we ended up paying for shipping fee, over $5,000 on shipping fee. We would have paid very less. We would have paid like even more than half, slightly, maybe half of it or less, but we ended up paying more. And because the funder was the one paying for it, the funder actually knew. So you see, even when we're facing issues about shipping delays, technology setback, they saw it. We didn't say that. I didn't come on the call to say, I'm not saying that you should tell your partners, but this is just an example I'm just trying to give. I'm not saying that when the donor gives you money, give the money back to them and say, hey donor or hey partner, I want you to pay for me. No, I mean, if you find it if that is convenient for you, yes. And I think it also depends on the situation I found myself in when we were doing those purchases. I hope that is fine. Okay, so that is an example. So when things are not going well, please let partners know. You don't hide, because it is rather disastrous when the partner comes to your event. Let's assume you are having an event. Certain things were not going on well, but you were feeling shy to tell the partner about it. So your partner ends up coming for your event, bring on board their media team, bring on board their friends. Probably they've spoken highly of you. And at the end of the day, you end up disappointing them. That is very disastrous. So even when things are not going well, please tell your partners. Let them know. That is how you build trust. So it is trust. That's why I say trust is built on what you choose to share. So you need to be able to share both good and bad news early. So you don't share the bad news when the bad news has happened. And if it's good news, share. So when things are not going well, say it before it becomes a bad news. So not after it's fixed. You don't even fix the thing before coming to your partner. Otherwise, your partner will have trust issues with you. Making financial reporting routine. So not just, so you see, you need to also try and then make, I think I mentioned this. You can just make a simple data, like a simple reporting. When we hosted the Kectil Ghana Leadership Conference last year, after the conference I hosted, I did a financial reporting to our executive director and founder of Kectil. You see, that is how you build trust. Because at the end of the day, there's that kind of financial transparency. You put decisions, decision rights in writing before disagreements happen. So that brings me back to what we have said earlier. When you're putting together your team, let everyone know what they are supposed to do and who sort of like has what voting rights over certain things. You see, we may be seeing these things as informal, but the more or the earlier we're able to sort of like practice these things, the better. And then finally, create a channel for partners to ask hard questions safely. So you can have like check-ins with your partners so that they can ask questions. Now, four mechanisms that can help you with your communication. Now, these are not just good intentions, but four mechanisms. So one, written agreements. It is very important that you have MOU or partnership agreements that names the contributions, roles, and decision rights. It has to be signed before the work starts. Sometimes you may, it depends on how much they are bringing on board. But sometimes it's not bad to have it. If someone is giving a one-off donation, fine. You can just write it in your book. You don't need an MOU. So don't say, Charles, the board member said we should write written agreements. So when someone gives me $50, we are signing an agreement on MOU. No, that is not what I mean. But then when even when someone gives you $100, you can let the person write a letter of acknowledgement saying that they've given you $100. And you know what that does is that it sends a strong signal to another partner or a future donor that, oh, this is a list of people who have even supported you. And it also helps you with your accounting or accountability purpose. In case someone doubts how much you received or whatever, you may never know. It helps you clear your name in case anything happens. Mind you, founder or partnership disagreements will pop up with your team. Sometimes you may have disagreements with your team. Even your own team members can end up writing disastrous emails to your partners, telling them that your work has failed, telling them that you were not truthful. These things might happen, but these things can also be avoided, my friends. So these are some of the mechanisms you can use to avoid some of these things. And if any misunderstanding pops up, these mechanisms can help you clear your name. Now, so you need to have partnership agreement. So if a partner is coming on board, making certain promises so that you can also hold them accountable, it is very important. Now, routine financial reporting. So maybe like a simple, quarterly or monthly snapshot, or your project can be a one-off project. It's fine. You can have a financial reporting of that kind of project. So you did a community health drive. How much did it cost you? So write every single expense, so you make a list of your income and your expenses. So your income here is a donation that you received or whichever grants or supports you received financially. You make another list of your expenses. Then you write how much, even if you made your own financial contribution, you should need to make a list, add it to that cost, so that you're able to report accurately. And also for your accounting purpose, sometimes we end up not writing these things. So when we go to do another event, people end up cheating us because you don't have a documented, expenses. So you don't know how much you even spent on something. So when someone comes and tells you or inflates the price, you don't even know. So you're not able to keep track of it. So it is very important for your financial reporting. And having joint M&E dashboards, I think maybe this might be too much for you, but it is important for you to share sort of like a dashboard to measure your monitoring, sort of like for your monitoring and evaluation. So you need to make a list of certain KPIs. Okay. So you set the KPIs for yourself, for your projects, and you set the KPI for your projects. And then you find a way to monetize. So monitoring these KPIs will let you understand whether or not you were successful with regards to implementing your project. And even your partners will be able to see as well. Structured check-ins are very important. Having recurring review meetings with a fixed agenda to talk about projects, challenges, what are supposed to, what are needed, to help you reach whichever milestones that you want to reach? What challenges are people facing? Is anyone having any concerns? Is there any stumbling block or implementation challenges? You need to be able to address all these concerns. Now, finally, communication. So communication is sort of like that kind of connective tissue that keeps every partner aligned day to day. So now this is a picture of me at the Global Solutions Summit in 2024, I think, with Bill Gates. I had the opportunity to engage him directly and ask about some of the amazing things he's doing in addressing food security on the African continent. And you see, it is about communication. How do you communicate how do you communicate your projects with your partners? Because there were several young people there who could ask questions, but then I was part of the few people who were selected to sort of like engage with Bill Gates directly. And this was in relation to the work we were doing, you know. So it is very important for you to do that. Now, how do you match the channel to the stakeholder? So not every partner needs the same message and at the same frequency. So I think I spoke a little bit of on this around the advice I got when I started my journey about staying in touch. So now let's look at some examples here. Let's say a stakeholder, a donor, or a funder. What do they need? They need impact evidence and financial stewardship. So financial stewardship, we just spoke about it now. Impact evidence, we also spoke about it just now. Now, what channel can you use to communicate to these funders and donors? It's through formal reporting. So they will either give you a template or they'll ask you to develop your own template for this reporting. So whichever, please, you can use it. Even if they don't ask, it is important for you to report. And then you need to have a call with them, showing appreciation, telling them about how it felt working with them, what you need moving forward, and then what should be the cadence or the time frequency. It's for the timing, it shouldn't be. I think it depends. It depends on your projects. Okay, some projects are just one-off projects. Some projects are also building towards becoming a large-scale organization, and that is where I want most of you to go with your projects. Don't just see your projects as a one-off thing. See your project as something you can implement on a very large scale, something that can become a national organization or an international organization. And it starts with that small effort. So the reporting will depend on your project timeline with your donors that was set at the beginning. So it can just be a one-off project final report and you just share with them and you have your call. Implementing partners. So for implementing partners, you need them. So it can be bi-weekly or monthly, depending on the duration of the project. And now best channels. How do you then do with them? So you can either be having a working meeting plus you have a shared doc where you are all able to track who is doing what. And then community. If your community is also your stakeholder, mind you. Now, what do they need? They need plain language updates. So you need to have a community rep. So if you want to do a project in a school, you need someone in the school who will be your community representative. Now, you need to be able to give them updates, and there should be that kind of feedback loop as well. And now, what is the best channel that you can use? In person, you can have phone calls. Sometimes they may not speak English, so you should try and speak to them in their local language that they understand. And it depends. So same as the others. It depends on the timeline you've set for yourself and your projects. Now, government counterparts, what do they need? They need compliance and alignment with their policy. So before you even go to the government, try and understand, try and do a research of what the government's priorities are for that year, or what is the president or the current government speaking about. Are they speaking about STEM? Are they speaking about technology? Are they speaking about women's rights? Look at what promises the government said and look at what the government is implementing. Because the moment you do that, your project align with certain policies at the national level, it becomes easier for them to work with you. So you need to match the channel to the stakeholder. You don't just match the channel. You don't just like have one channel for all your stakeholders and partners. No, that's not the best. You cannot send a formal report to your community focal person. They don't need your project report for anything. So finally, your internal team and board. Maybe board members may be too large. When you get to a stage where you've registered your organization, you have your board members, you have your management team, yes, then you can also do this as well. But then in place of this, we can say your team. So now, what do they need? They need full visibility. You need to constantly give your team an update. You don't just put together a team and not update them. No, you need to update them. Let them know what is going on. If you had a meeting with someone, you can even invite your team member to join you on that meeting with your partner or your donor. And you need that dashboard and structured checking. So that is like, how do you best do this? And then, of course, I just wrote monthly here for an example. So it depends. You can meet weekly, you can meet daily. It depends on you. Honestly, I don't think you should be meeting daily, though. I don't know. If it's not your full-time job, I don't think you should be meeting daily. But so that you don't overwhelm your team. I'll have time for questions shortly, so you can be preparing your questions because I'm almost done with my delivery. And I said I'll
Yes.
be done in an hour.
At the
So
end, we
that's
will
very
have
much.
a separate Q&A session. So if
Yeah.
you have questions, sorry for interrupting, Charles, just organizational things, you can put the questions in the chat. We will gather them and then post them to Charles at the end, or you can ask the questions directly at the end. Thank you,
Awesome.
Charles. Please
Yeah,
continue.
thank you, Edward. Yeah, thank you. So yes, like I was saying, I'm bringing my presentation to a close. I think we've done about 55 minutes. I know it's 3 minutes past the hour, but we started a little bit of I think about 5 minutes past. So I think this should be the last few slides. So you need to be able to build a reading before you need one. So set a cadence. So you need to have like a timeline in all you do. Please have a timeline. Okay, have a timeline. I wouldn't stress more on it because clearly you know what a timeline is. Timeline really also helps you, like it holds you accountable. It helps you, it keeps you structured. You know what to do at what point. And you know how people like it also keeps you accountable in general. And let's also look at it when communication breaks down. Okay. Name the issue directly with the specific counterpart. Don't have a broadcast. And also return to the written agreement because this will happen. Communication will definitely break down. When you're working with people, it's not easy. When it happens, try and be very diplomatic about it. So you will return to the written agreement and see what was actually promised. Your partner may probably don't want to hold their part of the bag. You cannot force them though. They opted to support you. They can say that they don't want to support you again. You cannot force them. But then just for them to also know that, okay, this was what they said. So they can go back to it. And also separate relationship from the disagreements. It is very important. And finally, document the resolution so that it doesn't resurface unresolved. Now, let's look at this. The 3 pillars across a partnership's life. So now you need to understand that we spoke about resources, we spoke about communication, and we also spoke about transparency. So these are the 3 pillars. Now, the scope. Resource map drafted and roles named. 2, you agree. So now there's a written MOU, decisions are set, everything is good. Now, at the launch stage, you sort of like have your communication timeline, and then your reporting starts. And now you deliver, where you get to share routine transparency issues, whatever pops up, you get to share. And then you have evaluation or reviews. And then finally, you have like a renewal or you close, if you want to close a project. So now I just want to share these few things with you. It wasn't, I initially didn't want to include it, but I think you need to be able to understand your why and define your why. Because it's very important. Defining your why sort of like keeps you going when you face certain setbacks. So when you face stumbling blocks, it is by defining your why that will help you keep going. Embracing risk and resilience. So you need to embrace failure as a stepping stone to success. And you should also be able to cultivate resilience to bounce back stronger. It is very important. The work that you are setting yourself to do with your community project will not be easy. It will require risk. You face a lot of setbacks. You may end up spending your own money. You may face a lot of criticism. Your parents might not even be happy with you. Your family might not be happy. You may end up losing your girlfriends or your boyfriends. You may end up losing your grades. But just be very calculated about the kind of like embrace your risk and be resilient as well, so that you'll be able to bounce back stronger. And also build a strong support network. It is very important. Look at other community projects, colleagues that you have. Share ideas. Let them know if someone was able to raise funding. Ask them how were they able to do it? How were they able to raise $1,000 in a week? Or how were they able to raise $10,000 in a week or in a month? How did they do it? How were they able to navigate this issue or that issue? So building a support network will help you. So this picture was taken in Germany. That is the former Chancellor of Germany in the middle there, Olaf Scholz. Was a very amazing time with him. So you see, building that kind of support network really helps you to have that kind of community. When you face issues, these are the people who will help you, who will give you advice, because they also understand you. They're also working on something similar. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to seize the moment. Start small. I think I said this earlier. Take calculated risk and learn as you go. This picture was taken in 2023 at the World Bank headquarters. I was a finalist for the World Bank Youth Summit pitch competition. Unfortunately, I didn't win the first prize, but out of over 1,000 applications, I was part of the top 6. So it was, I really like this picture. It reminds me of a lot, one of the pitch days. So yeah, thank you very much. Just wanted to conclude by saying that embrace your entrepreneurial spirit as well. For those of you who want to be entrepreneur, also be bold, be fearless, and embark on a journey of innovation and self-discovery. So, thank you everyone who joined, and I hope that this was quite insightful for you.
So much. I was listening with great impression, and I had the pleasure to listen to all your experiences. And I'm really happy that someone that has experience is sharing about the partnerships and all the work to the people who are just starting it. It's even more powerful. For now, I would suggest to take the questions of our colleagues, and for this, I will pass the coordination to Kectil.
Thank you so much, Edward, and thank you so much, Matthias, for this very inspiring session. If you want, maybe you can stop sharing the screen so we can all see each other. That would be great, please. And while you do that, we have several questions from colleagues that they want to ask you about your trajectory or more broadly. So the first one, so this is a colleague who joined a little bit late, but they're interested in knowing if you're aiming to gain profit from the project that you are working on.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so I think probably my last statement can, in a way, answer that because I spoke about entrepreneurial spirits. Of course, when you're an entrepreneur, you need to look about profit. And one concept I would like to also talk about is the concept of social entrepreneurship. Because the spirit of social entrepreneurship is having a a head for business and then the heart for the world. So you are developing a business, but then your business is not a conventional business of just thinking about making money and making profit. But then at the core of what you do is impact. At the core of what you do is solving a critical social and environmental problem. But then you are also having a business model or a revenue model that keeps bringing in money to help you reinvest in scaling and sustaining your operations. So that is, I hope this answers your question. So we are not restricting you to just launch, NGOs. You can launch social enterprises. You can also launch NGOs. It depends on what you want to do. If your idea can be sold and or your solution can be a service or a product that can be sold, why not? You can, create a business model attached to it and make money to help you sustain the projects or the organization and help you scale.
Okay, wonderful. Now we have a colleague who asked several questions, so I'll just ask them to you one by one. So the first one is, in local developing countries such as Lagos in Nigeria, where there exists high economic instability, is getting funding really possible and or easy? Because the likelihood is so difficult in current times, especially with no track record.
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, and I mean, I guess if the question came way earlier, I guess now after the presentation, you should have gotten some ideas. But yes, I think for a city like Lagos, I know like Nigeria is a big country, over 200 million people, very talented people. Honestly, I have like amazing friends from Nigeria, who are doing extraordinary stuff. I've known friends from Nigeria who have gone ahead to raise over $500,000 in funding from different large global organizations and even some local organizations as well. So you see, what you have to do is to just follow that kind of the structure that I gave, the pillars, the three pillars. The three pillars: resources, communication, and then transparency. Once you build these three things and you're able to incorporate most of the key things I mentioned, this should really help you. And you see, you build that kind of credibility. So for instance, when someone gives you $100, okay? And you see, I always tell people that the very first funding you get for your initiative should be treated very, very, very well. How you use it will determine whether or not you get more. So for instance, if you get $5,000, you may convert it into your local currency and you feel that you're a millionaire in your local currency and you end up misusing that $5,000. You may never find that money again. This is because other funders or other partners want to see that, okay, someone gave you $5,000. What came out of that $5,000? What were you able to use that $5,000 for? So why should I give you $5,000 or even more? So it means you've killed your seed. You spent it, you misused it. You didn't see anything really tangible. So in order for you to attract people, even if you get $500 from Kectil, and then you're able to use that $500 to set up a small prototype. Let's assume you want to do a sanitary pad dispensary box, and you invest that $500 in that sanitary pad dispensary box, and you put a small sticker, Kectil Community Project, or funded. You see, another organization goes online to check Kectil Community Project, sees it's affiliated with Kectil, and say, oh, wow, then I can give you $2,000. $2,000 can help you build 4. You see, so that is the kind of mindset you should have, because you see, it is difficult for people to fund you when they do not know what you've done. So even with the little that you have, try and put something on ground and also have a very good communication mechanism. How do you put out, videos and pictures out there to support your work so that in a very big country like Nigeria, or finding yourself in a city like Lagos, people get to see that you are a credible person they can support.
Okay, wonderful. Before asking the next question, I just want to flag that for community projects, Kectil does not provide funding because you mentioned Kectil as an example. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone, is aware
Yeah.
that we do not provide
Yeah.
funds.
So I think I said that because of the awards, the gift cards that
Yes.
you may get. Exactly. So in case you want to invest that gift card in your projects after winning. I don't know if that's still, I think this year we are still giving some cash, right?
More about awards will be shared at a
Okay,
later
awards.
stage,
Okay.
but we have different awards. Yes, it just
Awards. Okay.
depends on the type and
On
everything.
the type, right. Okay,
Yes.
fair. Thanks.
No problem. No, thank you. Second question, would you recommend reaching out to likely partners physically or via online platforms?
So honestly, you can do both, whichever is convenient for you. But mostly how I get partners is through open calls. So I look at which partner is requesting for a grant, it's requesting for projects, where they can fund. But you see, most of those type of calls requires you to have a structured organizations. Most of them. There are just a few that will require you to be at the idea stage, which most of you, I believe, are currently. But for most of these calls, you need to have a very structured organization. So if you think you are at that stage, why not? You can. And if you think you do not have that kind of structured, support, you can look for local innovation hubs. So one thing I can advise is that visit local innovation and entrepreneurship hubs in your various cities, if you have. And I know some of the universities also have these innovation hubs. Visit them, let them know what support they have for some of these local or entrepreneurial ideas or that are making impacts. Once you get them on board, they enroll you on their programs. And once you're on their programs, it becomes easier for you to be able to, structure your project, even create an organization or whatsoever. So I wouldn't really say do only in person or do online. You can even have a list and write directly to donors. You can just send emails. But sometimes it's also easy to reach them through people people who work in those companies, so that it's easier for you to get there's that kind of low bounce rate in terms of the emails or rejections that you send. So yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And another question related to funding. From your experience, did you invest a lot of your personal funds into the process? And the colleague is saying that they're asking this question for low-income earners that might find this very difficult to do.
Of course, yeah. That is why I mentioned never take loans, my friends. Never take loan for your community projects. Because when you take loans and you come to Kectil to help you, we cannot help you pay back your loans. But one thing I can say, and don't also stress yourself too much, to an extent that you are a low income earner, and then you end up investing all your monies or investing your school fees into your community projects. Please, you need to take risks. I know I said you need to take risks, but take calculated risks. Sometimes even your donors can disappoint you. I've worked with donors who disappointed me in the past, where some donors told me that, hey, Charles, do the program. After doing the program, I'll give you $2,000. They never give because now the program is over and you cannot really hold them accountable. So imagine if I had used my school fees or I've used someone's money or had gone in for a loan, what would I have done? So you need to look at your current earnings and say that, okay, if I give, let's say, $100 out of my savings, would it affect me personally? Because you should think about you. Because you are the one driving your projects. So if you are not in a good shape, if you are hungry, or you end up not feeling too comfortable, it doesn't really help the project to become successful. However, you can also sort of like solicit for donations from your family and friends. You can have a like a quick broadcast like with families and friends, like say, oh, I'm doing this. I need people and I need 50 people to donate $10 each. That is like good amount of money to help you achieve something small. And then at the end of the day, when they do that, you acknowledge them on the project. They feel so proud of it. Or you can tell them that you are doing a community drive. How many people can buy a book a pack of book. Maybe the pack of book can go for, let's say, $10 or less. I don't know, depending on how much it is in your country. And you can even tell people that, hey, instead of donating this book, you can give me the money and then I use that to buy and donate on your behalf. These are ways these are creative ways you can use to generate, funding to support your community projects. I hope that helps.
Wonderful. Let's switch things up a little bit. I
Okay.
see we have Ijeoma Anastasia who has her hand raised. Anastasia, if you'd like to ask your question, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you. I've enjoyed the session very much because this session has made me realize that I run a nonprofit. I got it registered sometime last year that I've been running it majorly on good intentions. And I live in, should I say, a rural community in Delta State, Nigeria. Before getting my nonprofit registered, whenever I approached some government offices for partnerships or I needed to get a letter or any form of approval, they usually turned me back. At first, they would say they did not really believe in what I do because they saw me as a child because I was pretty young when I started the organization before getting it registered last year. And another major problem I've been encountering is this: even now that we are registered, I would still approach some of these government offices for some ethical approvals. For instance, I wanted to carry out a project on cervical cancer, women getting pap smears because it's quite prevalent now, especially in Nigeria. So I partnered with a hospital to run pap smears at very subsidized rates for women. But since a pap smear is an invasive procedure, I had to get an ethical approval from the Ministry of Health, the branch we have here in Delta State. I sent letters upon letters. I even got some of our volunteers that were in that location to go there, and nothing came out of it. So at the end of the day, I had to figure out another way to do the project, and I did more of awareness instead of actually getting these women to do pap smears. So how do I navigate problems like that?
Well, yeah. Is it like the problems you are referring to are more like compliance?
Yes, compliance.
Right. Yes. So, like I said in my presentation, you see, partners, like bringing on board partners, you need to be very strategic. You need to also get partners who have access. And that kind of access can help you with some of this compliance stuff. I know it can be very difficult, trust me. I remember I was running a project for the Hot Prize Foundation and we needed an endorsement from the government. See, I had to go to the office several times. I drove to the office many, many times before we finally got the approval. So it works like that. There's another person who also will sit at home, will obviously probably write a letter, send it to the office just once, and get
Yeah,
the recommendation. And it's because of
exactly.
access. That is what we end up saying protocol. Of course, protocol, but you see, we call it access because sometimes so you can even be strategic. Okay, you can decide to look for people who work at that office, like maybe certain influential people, or you can
Yeah,
scout through your church, look at people who work there, approach them, and tell them that, hey, you want them to be an advisor. So just be strategic with them. Tell them you want them to be an advisor for your project. This is an amazing project you are doing to benefit people in communities, and you are part of you are even part of global programs, training programs,
yes,
Kectil initiative, and you want them to be an advisor. You see, when people assume certain roles and responsibilities, they feel obliged to also support. So that is one
yes,
strategy you can use. So you can see any of the officers there and tell them, oh, this is what you are doing. And for them being an advisor, they can also contribute to global movement, local movement. You're also
yeah,
receiving support. You see, sometimes it's about how you communicate some of these things. And once you do that, you may get some of them to support you. They can use their personal influence to even recommend another person And because they know that, okay, they are not just helping you, but then they are part of your advisors. Okay, so that's
Yes.
one way you can use to. And I'm glad you've registered your organization, and I will entreat a lot of you on the call too. If you want to do something long term, if it's short term, fine. But if you want to do something long term, I really encourage you to register your organizations.
Thank you so
The earlier you
much.
register,
Thank
the better.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll try out these ideas.
Please do. All right.
Thank you again for the great question and all the great work you're doing on the ground. Our next question. So, how do we identify the type of partners that our project requires? For example, if we have a project on national cohesion.
Yeah, I think I already also touched on this a bit. I think the questions were coming in whilst I was presenting, so I understand. Yeah, so maybe I'll just use this as an opportunity to refresh. So you see, you identify partners based on what you need. So I think I gave out a certain structure where I said that first of all, you need to make a list of what you are bringing on board and what you have. So you make a list and say, okay, these are the things I have. Now, the next thing is, what do you need? So what would you need? So the what would you need will help you sort of like map which organizations or which partners will help you achieve those needs. So that is as simple as that. So I don't really know much about the kind of projects you guys want to or you guys are working on, but of course, Ijoma shared a little bit of what she is doing. But yes, of course, for a project like that, she obviously needs some form of compliance to get certain clearance from the government or get certain, certifications or whatsoever. You may even be introducing, it can even be a food product where you need the Food and Drugs Authority to give you approvals. You know, you may require certain um, tests or whatsoever. So you need to make a list. So once you make your list and you get to understand the gaps, those gaps will help you know that, okay, well, since these are the gaps, then we may need this government office to help us if they come on board as a partner, or we may need these individuals to come on board as researchers or health personnel or doctors. So that is my response to this question, and I hope that helps.
Thank you. Next one. How can I handle a situation where a partner fails to deliver their agreed upon resources?
Yep, that's a good question. Honestly, you can't fight them. Yes, you can't fight them because unless you had a MOUs are not legally binding, right? So MOUs are not legally binding. So you cannot really, maybe when you sign an MOU with a person, you cannot hold the person to it. But of course, you need to, you see what you can do is to um check whether or not. So you see, you may have an agreed upon resources, right? Like what this person is asking. How can I handle a situation where a partner fails to deliver their agreed upon resource? So you may have agreed, maybe it's a verbal agreement. You did not write, you did not put anything into writing. Okay, or you did not have an MOU, which stated that these are the resources they are bringing, and that is what I'm also bringing. So in that case, in case you have like a written agreement, then you can sort of like tell them that, oh, can they also review this written agreement because it stated that they are going to give XYZ. So you'll be very grateful if they can honor their commitments in order for you to be able to be successful at whatever projects they are doing. And you can also go ahead to tell them that if they do not do it, it doesn't send a signal about their credibility. But you cannot force them. You can just try and then speak nicely to them and let them sort of like emotionally reflect on whether or not they believe what they did was right. And then it also depends if you did something wrong, if they felt that something was off, it could also be a reason. And of course, at the end of the day, you cannot really force them to give you what they had promised. Unless maybe you guys had an agreement that, okay, you will sort of like advertise for them. That's you need to hold them accountable, because that is like an agreement. You are offering a service, sort of like a service that, okay, we are advertising your service for you in exchange for this amount or that amount. I think for that you need to really be serious about it. Exactly. So just that is why it's very important to have these things signed, so that even when it becomes a legal issue, and a legal person can really advise. I am not a legal person. So I cannot advise on these things. But I think your question was sort of like broad. That is why I'm tackling it from these angles, just for you not to bring any follow-ups. But yeah, I think generally you cannot force any funder or donor if they had made any like a promise. You cannot force them that, hey, you said you give me this. Why did why will you owe me? You owe me. No, they do not really owe you. But it also depends on how nice you speak to them about it, and if possible, get other people to intervene. And if it still doesn't work, just ignore them. Honestly, it's not worth it.
And that's a great answer. I will just add to say it also depends who your donor is and why they cannot give you those resources or they weren't able to honor it. I think a while back, for example, there have been governmental cuts from the US that prevented, certain funds from being dispersed. So that's an example in which, certain policies come from higher government and then they trickle down. And so a lot of projects were impacted due to that. So sometimes it's really beyond their control and your control as well.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. You've briefly already touched upon this, Matthias, but I will still ask it in case you'd like to add something. So in resource-limited countries like Afghanistan, how can young community leaders build strong partnerships without having significant funding?
I think it's similar to the question from Nigeria. Yes, but of course, I can definitely share. Yeah, in resource limited countries like Afghanistan, of course, it is difficult to build strong partnerships without having funding. But you see, it is difficult, but it's not that difficult. And I don't think you need significant funding. And I don't think you need significant, just like you're mentioning here. You don't need significant funding to build strong partnerships. And I don't know if you had the chance to look at the slide deck, at the beginning I shared the partners we had in 2021 and the partners we have now in 2026. Honestly, I did not need even $10,000 or $50,000 to be able to work with the International Trade Center. I did not need, tens and thousands of dollars to be able to have a strong partnership with the Netherlands Embassy or with the European Union. But you need these three pillars I spoke about. Resources. Resources, mind you, it's not just about money. I kept on saying it. Transparency and communication. These are the three things you need. So if you are in resource limited countries, a country like Afghanistan, and you are doing something amazing, what I will encourage you to do is to constantly try and then make use of zero budget opportunities. So for instance, when I say zero budget opportunities, maybe you are doing an advocacy work, or maybe there's an event happening somewhere where you have an opportunity to attend. You can talk to the organizers that, hi, this is a small curriculum I have developed around how young people in Afghanistan can build their capacity. Or it depends on what applies to your local laws or, whatsoever. So you can just draft that curriculum and tell the organizers, oh, I am part of this program as a participant, but then if there's a little chance I can engage with this group during the breakout or whatsoever, let me show. And you see, you don't really need money to organize that. That is someone's event you are sort of like relying on. And the moment you take pictures or maybe short videos of such engagements, that can help you now use those resources to unlock other opportunities, because now people see that, okay, you've been able to do something like this with even 10 or 5 people. And it didn't really cost you any extra money to organize or mobilize those people. Yeah, so in limited resource limited countries or locations. I know not just Afghanistan, but we also have other Kectil colleagues from other low resource cities around the world. You should adapt this strategy. Once you adapt it, you see that you also do not just adapt and do something like this and just keep it to yourself. Put it out there. Because organizations will mostly do due diligence on our social media. They Google your name. What do they see when they Google your name? When they go on LinkedIn, when they go on Instagram, what do you write? Do you tweet about football? Do you only speak about entertainment, or you do a mix of your initiative and your personal life? All these things sort of like influence whether or not you build strong partnerships that you deserve in some of these low resource limited communities.
Wonderful. Actually, what you just shared ties into one of the questions that one of the colleagues has, which is they were asking, does creating an organization page on Facebook or LinkedIn, is it important to gain donors' confidence?
Of course. I will never. Let me see if I can use this opportunity to even share my website of my organization. If I think there should be some time, it should take just a minute. You see, it is very important. I know not all of you may have money to build websites. I'm not asking you to go and build websites, but even having that Facebook page. So that's a very good question. That do creating an organizational page on Facebook or LinkedIn important? Yes, because you see, these donors do not know you. Assuming you're applying for a grant with hundreds of people, the reviewers do not know you. They only know you by what you've said in your application. So now, how do they build certain confidence? It's when they visit your website or your social media pages. What videos do they see there? Do they see videos of you distributing laptops, as you said in your application? Did they see videos of people giving testimonies about the impact of your work? These build strong donor confidence. So please never take your communication and branding for granted. I don't know if the board leading the community projects have something like that as part of the webinars, but of course, I think it is one thing that you need to be able to take into consideration in your journey. So this is like a snapshot of my organization's website. When someone visits your organization's website, they should be able to know what you are doing. So you see, these awards, we intentionally listed these awards down here. So first prize winner, Global Food Tech Awards, UNIDO Director General Award. So that sends a strong, signal of credibility that our innovation has been recognized, by the United Nations, and we won a Global Food Tech Award. We won the Social Impact Prize. We won the Prototype for Humanity Prize, in Dubai. So you see these, and it helps people, it makes people see that what you are doing is real. You are not just saying abstract stuff. And you see there's a video here showing a woman smiling, showing a farm, showing the products that we offer. So it is very important for people. So once someone sees my website, they see that we are actually doing something on ground. We are not just talking about something abstract. They see our product on the field. So that is, and you see, even in this picture, you see our organizational logo. My colleague is wearing a t-shirt with my organizational logo. So that is how you're able to get the attention of these organizations. So you may not have money to build a website, but even if you get, or you can even engage some of your computer science friends, let them build these things for you. It's all part of you. Just know how to convince people to support you with some of these things. And you see, there's our team, there's our advisory team, letting people know that we are not just alone. We also have like really strong advisory panel members helping us. And there's also a page for awards. There's a page for our partners as well. And then our social media, you can also click and then it takes you to Instagram or LinkedIn. So it is very important for you to be able to do that. So that's a good question.
Okay, wonderful. Another good question by the same colleague, actually. What are the main accountability measures that an organization ought to establish aside from reporting?
Yes. So what are the main, so can you give me the
Yes,
question again? Sorry, I had a call.
no worries. What are the main accountability measures that an organization ought to establish aside from reporting?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So aside from reporting, accountability measures, I think I spoke about, aside reporting, I spoke about something we call trust. You see that you let people, you shouldn't just like let the organizations also see what you see. So you don't wait until reporting before you tell your partners that these are the challenges or these are the issues we face. But sometimes you can let them see in the process. Other accountability measures can also be inviting them to attend your community event launch. Like, it's amazing. You don't need a reporting. Sometimes they don't even ask you for reporting again. They can even go and do their report, but of course it's structured. But sometimes you see when organizations become so rigid on you, it's because you probably were not too accountable. You were not too transparent. So you didn't invite them for your event. They didn't see any pictures. It's like everything is in the dark. But even when you invite them to come and speak, they feel regarded. So these are some of the things you can do. So inviting them to your event, um, letting some of your beneficiaries even speak to them, or even having video calls with them, having check-ins or inviting them for your check-in with your team so that they also sit in and listen. Sometimes it might not be too necessary. They might not have the time. And please, mind you, don't overwhelm them. In as much as you are trying to do this, don't do it too much. If you do it too much, they will not really be available that much. So just try and then be accountable in some of these other ways, but not too much.
Okay, wonderful. Before asking you the next question, there's actually a question for the community projects team, so I'll address it very briefly. So the colleague is asking or letting us know that some governmental officers sometimes reject proposals because they do not have a letterhead or recommendation letters, and they're asking if the Kectil community projects team can support or provide resources that support and give more authenticity to our projects like this. So the very quick and short answer is that yes, we are able to help to an extent. For inquiries like these, or if you need a letter of support that provides a brief overview of the community projects, etc., please write to us at communityprojects@kectil.com, and we will respond back to you as soon as we can. Okay? So this is in regards to support letters. And now going back to questions for Matthias, another interesting question. So how do you go about situations where volunteers may conspire or change their minds and deviate from the rules that you agreed upon before the project was implemented? What are best solutions based on your experience?
Yeah, please sack them. Yeah, sack anyone who you are the boss in charge. Just like when you see people being unethical, people trying to play smart, people just remove them. You see, because sometimes and when people are being disrespectful, thank you. So that is why it's important to have agreements with even if they are volunteers, sign just, it can be a one-pager agreement. You can generate something with ChatGPT or AI, or you can even if you have a friend who is having a legal background, they can just, generate something for you so that you're able to hold people accountable for their actions. You see, because sometimes people can let their their emotions lead them, sorry, and it sort of like affects everything. So when you face issues like this, I think you need, before you even overreact, understand whether or not understand the issue, okay? But if people, let's say, did not come to you when they have issues, and then they go straight ahead to writing to your donors and your partners, overreacting and telling them you are this, you are corrupt, everything has failed. No, you don't really need people like that. But then when you see people talking to you, creating platforms to address concerns, okay, those are the people you need to listen to and find ways you can solve it. Even when you have an advisory team, or you can even bring in an external person. It can even be one of your partners or your donors who you respect. You may not sometimes want to let your internal issues go out, but maybe you can have one of your partners that you respect a lot come in to settle whatever issue you have. But then one thing that sort of like prevents you from escalating some of these things is when you have written agreements with your team, so they know their place. This person knows that I am the project lead, or I am the head of the project. These are my rules. These are the things I can do. I can fire. I can do this. When we are voting, we need maybe 2 people to vote before we can agree on certain things. Have all these things briefly stated in an agreement. And once you're able to do this, I think it will really help you. But for people who really show high level of disrespect, high level of unethical behaviors, please do not associate yourself with them, because at the end of the day, it will affect your reputation as well. So you need to be able to cut them off entirely. For people who go overboard to do things that really, really escalate. But when people are raising certain minor concerns, don't say Charles said you should sack them. No, listen to them. It could be that it's about you being the leader, having an issue, maybe how you spoke to someone was not so nice. Mind you, these are volunteers. You need to know how you speak to them. You need to know how. So maybe you addressed, you overreacted in a certain way, and then one of your volunteers was trying to draw your attention. You need to try and ask the others. Oh, you were there. How did you think I handled this issue with this other person? Maybe I overreacted, or the person said I overreacted. Then you apologize. But you don't say I am the project lead. I am the Kectil colleague. So you are just a volunteer. No, never do that. So you need to also assess yourself as an individual, and you need to be authentic as a leader. So authentic leadership in this journey is very, very important. So whilst I'm saying I'm addressing this on the side of someone trying to escalate it, it could be that it was your fault as a leader, but you did not manage it properly. That is why it's escalated. So you should always be sure to understand that even though it was the person's fault, it could also be your fault. But then trying to find that balance and trying to apologize to each other in a very decorum way is the way to go. But when the issue I have is that people should never go above to cause problems, to destroy what the entire team has been trying to build just because they had an issue with someone. For those people, they should not be tolerated in your projects in any way. But then you as a leader always try to create a respectful environment where disrespect is not allowed, and you do not also disrespect the people that you work with.
Okay, wonderful. We have one last question, after which we will take a group picture and wrap up the webinar. And I think this is a very nice question to end on. So how did you manage to secure your first partnership, having in mind that potential partners don't partner only with ideas and that they usually like to see a running project?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. Yeah, so you see, the first ever so let me just put it this way. You need to look for opportunities that are relevant to the current stage your project is at. So I'll take it again. Look for opportunities or look for partners who support projects that are at the current stage you are. Because if you end up looking for opportunities or partners who do not align with the stage you are or the stage you find yourself, then it does not make any sense. Like, clearly, you're not going to get the results. So I can tell you for a fact that not all organizations fund ideas that have already been implemented. There are quite a number of organizations that also fund ideas. You just need an idea on paper. You just need that kind of strong resilience. You just need that kind of ability to communicate and tell your story that, hey, with your support, I can implement this idea. Then you get it. A clear example was what I did, where I was able to secure $25,000 with my team on our very first attempt to get funding and partnership for my startup. And it was through a competition. It's called Fishbowl Challenge. I think it's on hold for some time now, but you may want to check it out. Fishbowl. I'll also try and make a list, share with the community project team to share with you guys certain opportunities that you can have access to. But for now, because of time, I may not be able to type everything in there. But you should look out for opportunities, such opportunities that can help you raise funding, even at the idea stage. So please, there are certain situations, or most often, let me put it that way, most often people want to see you doing something on ground before they support you, which is fair. But then there are also opportunities that support you even with your idea. But you see, the good thing is that what makes you stand out, or what makes you sort of like what puts you ahead of other applicants is when you've been able to even implement a prototype. That is why I keep saying that your very first seed or your first grant or whatever you get, whichever, no matter how small it is, try as much as possible not to misuse it. Try as much as you can not to misuse that money. I have friends who got up to $6,000 in 2020. They misused the money, and today they've never been able to raise anything again. Today, my team and I have been able to raise over $300,000 in funding to support our work. Because you see, if someone gives you, the mindset that we had was that if someone was able to give us 25,000 with just an idea, imagine what you can get when you implement it. You see, that was the kind of mindset I had. So ladies and gentlemen, I really, really want to wish you the best in your Kectil community project journey and in your impact journey. I'll be cheering you on, myself and my colleague on the Kectil board. We are always proud of you, no matter how little your impact may be. What you are doing is very bold. Stepping up to really create an impact in your community is never easy. I know how difficult it is for some of you to be able to even navigate around your laws, how strict certain laws are in your countries and in your communities. But then you are still stepping up. You should be very proud of yourself, and you should know that we all did not start, our organization. That the presentation I did, we all did not start for it, in that kind of glorious way. We started with a lot of difficulties. We started with people discrediting our work. We started with people saying that I should go and build something in a backyard. We started with people telling me that I'm not an engineer, I'm not an agricultural expert, so I cannot do this work. My work will fail. We started with people saying that even with our technology, we can never run a 100% refrigeration on solar, but we're able to do it. So it means that no matter what people will say, you should be resilient and believe in your idea. Today, I've had the chance to, visit quite a number of organizations, serve on some boards, engage with several high-level personalities, and I think you can actually do same. I started, from where you are. So I really want to wish you the best again, and I want to thank the Kectil Community Projects team for this wonderful session. It was really nice spending this few hours of my Saturday with you. And you can connect with me. I think I'll share my social media in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matthias. And if I can just ask everyone to open their cameras, we would really love to take a group picture with everybody before wrapping up. Okay, starting to see people. We'll just give it a minute. Okay, everyone, last chance if you want to open your camera very quickly. Otherwise, we'll do a countdown from 3, and then I'll take the pictures. So big smiles. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and we'll just do another just in case. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, wonderful. Edward, if you'd like to wrap up.
Yeah. I think my voice was bouncing. Okay, thank you very much, Kectil, for taking the pictures as well. And thank you everyone for joining us. From your questions and your responses in the group chat, we saw that you liked the session. And please feel free to address to send us any questions that you didn't manage to ask. We will pass them to Charles. And thank you, Charles, once again for joining us and for delivering all your expertise and your knowledge. Thank you for sharing it with our colleagues, and I hope many of them you will be able to implement during your Kectil community projects. With this beautiful note, I suggest closing up the sessions. Thank you for staying with us. We had great participation, and we expect you in our next sessions as well, because we have still at least 3 webinars to go. Thank you so much, and stay in touch.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye. Thank you, Kectil, for moderating. Bye.
Thank you. And thank you, Edward, as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.